batch came out in 1967. And then, so we are now 60 years. Though our association has been in existence for a long time and has been, of course, pretty active, we thought let's go beyond socializing and make something concrete.
These networks can be utilized so much for knowledge management. Next generation, yeah.
Exactly. So under the Ajit Alumni Association, or AAA in short, we have various platforms. One is the Ajit Knowledge Forum. We meet on second Saturday of the alternate month at 6 p.m. regularly. And we have had illustrious guests, including you. We have had Sham Benegal. We have had former Director General of CSIR, Mashelka. Then we have founder of the Mind Tree, Subrato Bagchi.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful speaker.
Then we have had the cosmonaut, Rakesh Sharma. Yeah, then we had the cricketer, Jawgal Srinath. Sorry, Srinath. So we have had...
but you had a very good selection, I must say.
So from different backgrounds, we keep calling people. And of course, we started the lecture with Captain Gopinath, who is our own Ajit. GR Gopinath, the founder of Air Deccan. So he's one of first batches.
Okay.
Yes. And let me, sir, introduce you now. Our first school captain, Colonel BGV Kumar, he was there with you at he was your senior at the NDA. So
yes.
General Atta,
Sir.
I'm with 39th course.
39th, oh, sir. Okay, sir.
You are 44th, I think.
I'm 44th, that's right, sir.
Yeah, I was, I don't know, you might have been given the task of remembering my name. I was longest name of SSC golf.
Okay.
Biligeri Vishwanath, Biligeri Govindaya Vishwanath Kumar. That was a pet. I'm a good friend of Tilu Dillon, Vinod Bhatia.
Okay, sir. Tilu was with me about 10 days ago. He was staying with me in Delhi. He spent almost a week with me. And Vinod and I are working together very often on many projects. Projects of national security. So we do analyses and write-ups together. We are doing a project for MOD at the moment on border security, which we are doing the western border, complete JNK to Gujarat. Last 1 year we have been doing this time.
Okay. A very dear friend of mine.
Sir.
We served together in the Para Center. Then he is a sister battalion, 6 Para. I am from 7 Para.
You are from 7, sir. So, yes, I had a course mate, SK Sood, who's not well, of course.
Yeah. He's almost, he's got that, I think, Parkinson's or something.
Yes, he's got Parkinson's. Absolutely.
In fact, Colonel BGB sent me a message today afternoon that, General Hasnain is sharp to the point and a prolific speaker.
No, I'm a big fan of his.
You can't be a fan of mine. You can't be a fan of mine. How can that be? That's the reverse.
And let me introduce Colonel Shakil Gungi. Shakil.
Jai Hind, sir. Jai Hind.
Where is Colonel Shakil? Oh, yes.
Jai Hind, sir.
Yeah, how are you, Shakil?
All well, sir. Thank you.
I can see that Bhalu post behind you. Ajit hai, Abhit hai behind you.
So that was General Om Prakash.
Yes.
When he was there at the same place, that's where
But let me share with you that this slogan got him into a lot of trouble.
Okay.
Omar Abdullah rang me up.
Okay.
Omar Abdullah rang me up in Delhi because Om Prakash had taken over from me only.
Yes.
But Om Prakash did not know Kashmir. He knew Jammu side very well. He knew Ladakh very well. But he was fresh to Kashmir and he put this slogan, Abhit hai, Ajit hai, on top, which the Kashmiris could not understand. Now, if you are putting up a new slogan and things like that, you must reach out to the media and tell them what is your mission. Why are you putting this there? The Kashmiris thought that the new corps commander had come to tell them, Abhit hai, Ajit hai, we are victorious on you miserable people.
Oh.
That is the perception which came out from this. And Omar Abdullah rang me up and said, what is this, General Sahab? ये आपके successor ने किया है? कुछ नहीं किया है, इसमें कोई गलती नहीं है. फौज में हम बहुत चीजें करते हैं इस तरह से. We put up slogans here and there. शायद कुछ misunderstanding हो गई. मैं बताता हूँ जनरल साहब को. It had to be taken off after that. You will be surprised.
But this is a very innocent.
Yeah, I know, absolutely.
But
You see, outside, Kashmir is a valley place. You know how it is. Everyone wants to do some mischief or the other. You have to be ready to be prepared with your words. But I always say a corps commander is not there to shoot AK-47. He is there to shoot words
yes,
and make sure his mind is ticking at all times.
yes,
That is the only way you can get rid of it. You have to be sharper than the media, sharper than any politician.
true. I agree. I agree.
I wish that sent you as a governor there.
So that is a political decision. To be
No,
sure.
you'd have done very well there.
That is true. That is a general feeling of many people, whomever I have spoken in Delhi also. They feel that you could be the best person for this assignment. And for General Om Prakash, you are very committed, Ajit, and highly dedicated. He has
Yes, he's a very good soldier. Excellent.
very good soldier. Possibly he'll join today. And so we have a lot of people really waiting to listen, and youngsters in particular. We would also like you, what we have done is that after your speech, talk is done, we kept half an hour for Q&A session, where we have 3 sub-sessions in that. The first, of course, 15 minutes we dedicate to issues around, in a way, continuation of your talk. And the next 5 minutes, we thought you could have an advice to the veterans, particularly those officers who would be relinquishing and getting into the next phase of life. How should they lead their life, and how could they be as active as you are? And then the third part of it would be for the younger cadets at schools, whether at Syed schools or outside Syed schools. How do they get inspired to join armed forces? And of course, and apart from that, how could they also lead a good life? So we thought sub-sessions, and yeah.
I have got a total of 34 slides.
Okay.
And they are not all, they are textual, some of them. I'm not going to go through every bullet. I will only explain a few things here and there to keep the interest alive.
Yes.
But it will be simple. There will be some little bit of complexities here and there, but I'll try to keep it as simple as possible. A lot of maps.
Yes. No, I'm sure they will all appreciate, and it inspire the youngsters also. And we will also have principals of some schools, so that I think they can take your example to inspire their cadets subsequently. Our Ajit Knowledge Forum is precisely meant for this. We thought that we would like to serve the society in this way. So this is one of the forum, and I was explaining to you other verticals. Another vertical is called Ajit Entrepreneurship and Innovation Platform, Forum, AEIF. So there we try to promote enterprise among the youngsters in particular, because everybody can't join the services, and everybody may not also join government job. So they get into the enterprise, just as now our Honorable Prime Minister has been advocating. So we have started this assignment of promoting, facilitating, hand-holding our boys into enterprise. So there's another platform we have. And the third one, of course, we are creating what is called Ajit Service Forum, so that boys can, alumni can adopt villages wherever they are and do a bit of positive work engagement with the villages or schools and colleges. So this is how we want to create large number of constructive verticals. And the engagement goes beyond socializing and saying just hello and having a cocktail or dinner.
Absolutely. So wide array of activities.
Sir, excuse me. Arjun Muttana has joined us.
Yeah, Arjun. Arjun, come out to the screen. Yeah.
Good evening, sir.
Hi. Good evening, Arjun. Good to see you.
Same here,
You lost some hair in the last.
Lots of hair, sir. Otherwise, good, sir. I mean, I'm really happy that you consented to come onto the program.
Yeah, such an interesting network which is got together. Might as well make use of it.
And what Ashok Dalwai did mention, sir, is that it's not only Sainik School Bijapur, the school cadets who are online, but roped in a number of schools who come online. So what the schools do is they have it in their
In the
auditorium,
auditoriums, yes.
and your outreach increases to a lot of people. So that is how it is. So I think it's time, sir. I think the organizers will possibly be starting off because they start live streaming
I
and
think so.
everyone
We are
will come
live.
online.
We are live, sir.
Oh, I see. So I think we should hand it over without any ado to
Yeah.
General
Basuraj,
Hasnain.
General Basuraj, where are you?
Good evening, sir.
Major General Basuraj. So let me introduce you to the General. Major General Basuraj is our master of ceremony today. And Basuraj, come over, please. Yes, this is the master of ceremony today who is going to guide us. Basuraj.
Yes, sir.
So now we're all at your mercy.
Good evening, General Hasnain, sir, and good evening to everybody.
Good evening, sir.
It's a pleasure to get an opportunity to interact with you, sir. While we have done this while in service, it's been a long time since I last interacted with you. Very pleasure. Great pleasures.
Hello, Hasnain. Yajurvedi here.
Thank you,
40th
sir.
NDA. 40th NDA. Echo.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is your Air Vice Marshal Vikas Yajurvedi. Yes.
Sir.
Hi, Hasnain.
Yeah.
How do you-
sir, I think we are live. We can start.
You
Yeah, we can
play
start
squash
now.
still? Are you playing squash still?
Yes, bits and pieces. But yes, I'm now also getting to be 70 years old in the next 1 year. So I suppose one has to take it easier on that front.
Yeah, we did the 40-second stuff course, I think, together.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
Yeah, your 40-second stuff. Okay. Hi. Bye. I will start up.
Yeah, Basuraj, please take over. Yeah.
Do we start the proceedings?
Yeah, start.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Ajits and every one of you who have joined us today from across the globe. Welcome to the 9th session of the Ajit's Knowledge Forum. I, Major General Basavaraj Gilganchi, roll number 637 of the 1971 to 79 batch, Chalukya House, feel honored to be your host for this event. The Ajit's Knowledge Forum has made a humble beginning in August 2021 to promote sharing of knowledge amongst the Ajit fraternity to enhance their capabilities for making meaningful contribution towards society and the nation at large. Eminent personalities from diverse fields have shared their knowledge and wisdom in this forum. It has now become an event eagerly awaited and keenly watched by not only Ajits, but a large cross-section of the people the world over. It has selected for today a very live issue. India is a rising power and is seeking a greater and greater role in world affairs. China, which sees it as a threat to its ambitions for regional supremacy, would attempt to curb India's aspirations by all means. Chinese actions along our borders in the recent years, the consolidation of Xi Jinping's power after the 20th National Congress, and Pakistan's need to divert the attention of its people from its economic and political situation. All these make India's national security paramount. Today, we have none other than Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain, Param Vishesh Seva Medal, Uttam Yudh Seva Medal, Ati Vishesh Seva Medal, Sena Medal, Vishesh Seva Medal and Bar, retired, to enlighten us and share his insights on an important aspect of national security. He will speak to us on India's border security dual front challenge. His talk will be followed by a question and answer session. General Hasnain is not only a great military thinker, but an inspirational leader par excellence. He is known to say that one should have a fire in the belly and passion in the heart. In order to gain from all facets of his personality, the question and answer session will be subdivided into 3 sub-themes. One, on the talk related to security issues. The second, on how veterans of the armed forces can continue to contribute towards nation building after retirement and prepare themselves for it while in service. And the third will be on the defense services as a career for the youth of today. Before we begin, a few words on the etiquette for this online event. You may send in your questions, but please stay muted till you are granted permission to speak. Now, we have a small deviation in the program. Instead of the school song, we have a young cadet from Sainik School, Bijapur, voicing the sentiments of all cadets of the school. Ajit Umesh Sajjanar, the technical director for the event, will take us through the same. Umesh, please go ahead.
Sure, sir. Sir, hope my screen is visible, sir.
Yes, Umesh. A very good evening, sir. I am Cadet Shrey from class 11th of Sainik School, Bijapur, and I would like to say a few words on this occasion. Ajit Knowledge Forum is an initiative of Sainik School, Bijapur alumni aimed at bringing eminent personalities closer to the alumni as well as to the student community. We, the cadets of Sainik School, Bijapur, have been benefited immensely from these sessions organized by Ajit Knowledge Forum. These sessions are not only informative but inspirational as well. This forum, with an innovative approach, brings out a broad spectrum of creative, scientific, and technological knowledge, besides providing nostalgic moments for the Ajits to reminisce. The first episode of the Ajit Knowledge Forum was held on 18th September 2021 and was inaugurated by one of our legendary Ajits, Captain Gopinath. We were pleased to listen to an extraordinary and truly inspirational lecture. Today's forum on India's border security dual front challenge by the speaker, Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain, former General Officer commanding 15 Corps, will surely be an eye-opener for everyone. This will help us get a broader perspective about India's defense strategy. We are thankful to Ajit Knowledge Forum for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, young man. I think you have set the tone for today's session. We couldn't have had a better start to this session. And thank you, Umesh. Now we'll come to the start of the session with the welcome address. I would like to invite Ajit Prakash Saigavi of the 1975 batch to deliver the same and formally welcome General Hasnain and all the attendees of this event. Prakash sir, please go ahead.
Thank you, Major General Basaraj. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a chilled morning and a warm noon to our friends from abroad. Namaskar, Swagat, Sat Sri Akal, Salam Alaikum. I, Prakash Saigavi, on behalf of the Ajit Knowledge Forum, fondly called AKF, welcome all our gurus, Ajit seniors, contemporaries, juniors, family and friends of Ajit's, staff and students from Sainik School Bijapur, Sainik School Jhunjhunu in Rajasthan, Sainik School Nagrota, J&K, Sainik School Imphal from Manipur, Sainik School Kodagu in Karnataka, Kannada School Examba, CBSE School, PU College, Degree College, PG College, B.Ed College, all from Nanadi in Karnataka, CBSE School, PU College, Degree College from Nipani, KLE's BCA College Nipani, staff and students from various defense schools, technical and management institutions, and from schools managed by Ajits. This is the 9th such occasion since we began way back in 2021 that we are gathered today evening. It's a part of a strong obligation that we owe, which has brought us together. And I assure you that this evening is going to be a very memorable one, having set very high standards for ourselves. We are fortunate to have amidst us today a very senior, multifaceted, highly decorated beaming officer who shall be addressing, guiding, and interacting with us. It's an honor to welcome our esteemed speaker of the evening, Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain, PVSM, UISM, AVSM, SM, VSM, and BARD, who is a retired general of the Indian Army. Welcome, sir. He needs no introduction. However, my fellow Ajits shall enlighten you of him in a short while from now. Without taking much of your valuable time, I conclude saying a true soldier fights not because he hates what is in front of him, but because he loves what is behind him. Thank you and welcome you all again. Back to you, Major General Baswaraj.
Thank you, Prakash sir. It's extremely encouraging to learn that AKF has attracted the interest of so many people across so many schools and colleges. It's a clear vindication of the faith of the founders of AKF who started this endeavor with very humble beginnings. Now, Ajit Sidram Nadgowda of the 1975 batch will introduce the illustrious speaker. Sidram sir, may I invite you to do the honors.
Thank you, General. It's a great honor and privilege to briefly introduce retired Lieutenant General Syed Hasnain. He is an extraordinary general whose achievements are evidenced from his involvement in several sensitive and important operations that include, among others, Operation Pavan in Sri Lanka, counter-insurgency operations in Punjab, his services with the United Nations in Mozambique and Rwanda. His military achievements are brilliantly complemented with his intellectual thoughts and articulations on military strategy and his well-researched writings and talks on national security. General Hasnain chose to join the Indian Army following the footsteps of his illustrious father, late Major General Syed Mahdi Hasnain, a decorated officer who was awarded the prestigious PVSF. General Syed Hasnain was commissioned into the 4th Battalion of the Gadwar Rifles from the Indian Military Academy, Dehradun, the battalion which he eventually commanded. As a brigadier, he served in Jammu and Kashmir as commander of the 12th Infantry Brigade. He later commanded 19th Infantry Division in Baramulla. As a Lieutenant General, Hasnain served as General Officer commanding of 15 Corps Srinagar. He excelled in redressing grievances and concerns of common citizens and to bring the army closer to the people in Kashmir. He conceived and operationalized the Hart's Doctrine. He also served as the military secretary at Army Headquarters, New Delhi. His unique and innovative approach, playing friend, not God, has been widely appreciated as the new HR management mantra across domains in and outside the military. Through most of the 40 years of his illustrious career, from 1973 to 2013, General Hasnain has served in some of the most challenging and turbulent environment and hotspots. He has served in Sri Lanka, Siachen Glacier, Northeast, Jammu and Kashmir, and in the United Nations operations in war-torn areas of Mozambique and Rwanda. He has the unique distinction of serving in 7 sensitive areas in Jammu and Kashmir. With such a vast canvas of experience, it's no wonder that General Hasnain is considered as one of the foremost expert analysts on Jammu and Kashmir, Pakistan, Middle East, and transnational extremist violence and such other areas of strategic interest for India. He is a much sought-after speaker and writes extensively for major Indian newspapers, The Times of India, The Indian Express, The Hindu, The Deccan Chronicle, The Asian Age, and many more, besides being a regular participant in debates on mainstream television. Syed Hasnain studied in the best of the education institutions and completed his school education at Sherwood College, Nainital, and thereafter at St. Stephen's College, New Delhi, where he received a BA honors in history. General Hasnain is an alumnus of the Asia Pacific Center for Security Studies, Hawaii, USA, and the Royal College of Defense Studies, London, and has also completed a postgraduate degree in international studies from King's College, London. With a very strong academic background, General Hasnain has been at the forefront of encouraging adoption of the US-initiated scholar warrior concept in the Indian Army. He has the distinction of speaking at some of the most coveted forums, Lee Kuan Yew School for Public Policy, the Rajaratnam School for International Studies, and the Indian Institute for South Asian Studies, all at Singapore. He has also spoken at the International Institute of Strategic Studies, London. General Hasnain is a member of the NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, of which our Honorable Prime Minister is the chairman. He is the member of the Indian Council of World Affairs and Institute of Peace and Conflict Studies. He speaks on national security at various military, civil services, and corporate institutions with a view to enhance India's strategic culture. He was at the forefront of neutralizing Pakistani influence in the operations in Iran. He was bestowed with an honor to serve as the Chancellor of the Central University of Kashmir. He has 6 decorations awarded by the President of India and 2 by the Army Chief. Post his retirement, General Hasnain has actively pursued intellectual activities and promoted the cause and perception of the Indian Army. He is a prolific member of Track 2 diplomacy with Pakistan, bringing his vast experience of Jammu and Kashmir to the meetings. He lectures at the National Academy of Administration, Mussoorie, National Academy of Customs, Excise and Narcotics, Faridabad, the College of Air Warfare, Army War College, Mao, Defense Services Staff College, and various other institutions, including the All India Management Association and Center for Land Warfare Studies, CLAWS. He has also lectured at the United Service Institution and Institute for Defense Studies and Analysis. Like his illustrious father, General Hasnain has also been awarded the prestigious PVSM, the Parama Vishishta Seva Medal, by the President of India, thus making his family the only one with 2 coveted PVSMs. General Hasnain is married to Mrs. Sabiha Hasnain, who served as a senior executive at a multinational corporate house. They are blessed with 2 daughters. With these few words, I have just taken 5 minutes, 14 seconds to present before you General Syed Ata Hasnain. Over to you, General Saab. Jai Hind.
Sir, please unmute, sir. Basaraj, sir.
One can go on and on speaking and introducing a personality like General Syed Ata Hasnain. Thank you, Sidram sir, for throwing light on just a very few of the impressive credentials of General Hasnain. It's indeed a good fortune to have a person of his stature address us. We now come to the centerpiece of today's session, something we have been waiting for so long, the talk by our esteemed speaker. We can hardly control our eagerness to hear him and share his thoughts. Without taking any more of your time, may I now request General Hasnain sir to share his thoughts and motivate and encourage our youth. Ladies and gentlemen, General Hasnain.
General Baswaraj, I'll just take 30 seconds to initiate the sharing of the screen. If you can just bear with me.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Great.
Loud and clear.
And is my first slide, which shows the 10th of December 2022, Ajit Knowledge.
Yes, sir.
Visible. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And my last test, I will change the slide once to ensure that the change is taking place in real time. Is it taking place in real time? Okay. Great.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Just like it always happens in all military forums, if during this presentation a crisis does take place, just remember, don't panic. In 5 minutes, we will come back, because the only thing I can anticipate is a power failure. I do not have power backup, full power backup. In case it does happen, you will probably have to give me 2 to 3 minutes for my internet to switch back. It has not happened in 33 talks from this computer at this location in the last few weeks. That I can assure you. Okay, Jai Hind to everyone. The time now is 6:20 and I have 60 minutes to speak. I have 33 slides precisely. A challenging subject. Thank you for putting me on a pedestal. It is, I know, the kind of inspiration and motivation I get from a network such as this, a very, very powerful network. I can make it out. I mean, seeing the personalities across, you can just make out how strong this network is. And let me compliment you. What I'm trying to do myself, you are doing it in a multifarious way. You are networking, and the power of networks, the power of compounding is much more than what a single individual can do. So hats off to you. You are doing exactly what I am trying to do in a very small way, that is spread strategic culture, spread the knowledge of leadership. And I dare say today, one of my other missions is to spread awareness on disaster management culture too. When I was given the subject, rather, you all chose this subject, I thought this was it's a very dynamic subject. There's a lot which has happened in the past, but I needed to give you something different, something in a slightly different format, and look at it more futuristically. So these are my perceptions. There are many, many things which you may not agree with, and you should not agree with at all. The power of intellect comes from the very simple fact that you need not ever accept what is just being presented to you. You have your mind and you will question it based upon your experience and your own knowledge. So we start, and my compliments go out to my entire audience, especially the younger people who are listening to us here, who are watching us here. I dare say I've tried to make it as simple as possible. But if I failed in that attempt, it is entirely my own fault, because I'm the author of this, and I'm the person who's delivering it. So there's no one else who can be faulted for it. It starts mostly in the army. I love to start outside with a small salute to my own nation. You know, this kind of a photograph, when you are in command in operational areas, this is a very common photograph. When you salute your fallen comrades. And this photograph is taken from a wreath-laying ceremony sometime in the year 2011, when a very large number of people from 15 Corps, we lost a large number of people from 15 Corps in a terrible avalanche up in Gurez. It didn't happen in enemy action, but in an avalanche. And climatic conditions in Jammu and Kashmir, you know what they are aware of, what they are like. It also goes out that I like to start all my talks dedicating them to the warriors of India, who have made the supreme sacrifice in the service of the nation. This is one forum through which we can always remember them, and we can always pass on this message to everyone, that anywhere you go, you start a talk, you're giving a lecture, an event, anything. Remember those who have enabled you to be able to continue doing what you are doing. Don't forget them. And I thought this is a good way to convey this. This will probably get embedded in the minds of our younger friends. So you saw the subject. It's about India's border security. It's about dual threats. It's about two borders, the western borders and the northern borders. But let me take you back. Let me take you back the last time the world got reset. You see, at the moment we are going through a reset of geopolitics. The last time it happened was 1989-90. That was the time when the Cold War came to an end. And you found lots of things happening. India emerged in 1989 to 1991. Lots of things happened in 2 years. Besides the conflict in Jammu and Kashmir, which got initiated, you also found India taking major decisions to undergo a change in its economic policies. Today, if we are sitting on $520 billion worth of foreign exchange reserves, if we are the fastest growing economy of the world at 6.7%, it is primarily based on the decisions we took in 1989, 90, 91. Lots of things were changing at that time. And internationally, if you see, just look at this, the rise of China to the center of global industrial growth. Today, China is coming down to 3 to 4% growth. It was the re-emergence of Europe as a massive integrated economic power that happened after the Industrial Revolution. There was the rise of middle powers: India, Brazil, China, South Africa, Russia, BRICS. All these middle powers were coming together. Indonesia, Australia. The IT revolution, networks were proliferating, just about coming into being. Ideological wars had started, although you may say that the Cold War itself was an ideological war. But ideological wars based upon religion, faith. The rise of political Islam was taking place. And for the next 30 years, political Islam would hold sway. The focus on democracy and human rights was suddenly finding its focus. So the world was undergoing a change in 1989-90. And if you're looking at change 30 years later, in 2022-23 onwards, this is what you should fall back on to understand how change will probably take place in the future. This is also the time when the rise of terror and hybrid war was taking. We talk about hybrid war. when we come to it a little later. This is a problem here where I can't read my own slide. Yeah. So post-Cold War, a confrontation between China and India was an expected phenomenon. It was said that two large powers in Asia perhaps could not survive together. So what was the problem between India and China? We had gone to war in 1962. Thereafter, a bullet hadn't been fired. 1967, we had gone to war. Virtual border clash at Nathula. 1975, we had a bit of a standoff within the Assam Rifles and the PLA in Arunachal Pradesh, and we had lost 4 men there. But after 1975, we had not fired a shot at each other. The real problem between India and China is that both large nations have a very rich civilizational heritage. The Chinese believe that they are the ultimate. The Middle Kingdom, they are the ultimate, the most populous. Both the countries, populous countries, have great potential, which is now being realized later, after the colonial period. Their neighbors enjoy a large border between them. They're fearful of individual space being compromised, of either nation's space being compromised. And to that trust deficit contributes the ideological differences between India and China. So China uses this trust deficit as a weapon. That is it. We have not been able to overcome, despite the fact that we have come to $120 billion worth of trade. Much of it is in favor of China. We have not been able to overcome this trust deficit. The support of Pakistan in a non-conventional threat environment. Of course, in a conventional threat environment, the whole western border, the threat in being from Pakistan holds back a large segment of our forces. But in a non-conventional threat environment, also it is crucial for China. And the cultivation of India's neighborhood is inevitable if it wishes to dominate Asia and India. So it's not just a question of just the northern and the western border. It is also the maritime borders. It is also the borders with Bangladesh. It is also the borders with Nepal. And we have to therefore look at it from a multi-border kind of an angle. Now, let me just take this out from here because this causes a bit of a problem. Yeah. The post-pandemic geopolitical reset is what we are talking about. You saw that Mr. Modi's coming to power in 2014 led us to approach China a little differently. And Mr. Modi, very much in his expectations, in his enthusiasm for outreach to both the adversaries, Pakistan, you saw his initial quiet and subsequently the actions that he took by even going all the way to Afghanistan and from there making a dash to Lahore, 25th of December 2015, and the outreach which he did to President Xi Jinping brought a breath of fresh air at that time. But the responses you saw from both our adversaries were not the kind that we were expecting. And there were reasons for it. By 2019, end of 2019, early 2020, the pandemic had set in. And 3 years, geopolitics of the world underwent a change. Now we are in the post-pandemic period. And there's a post-pandemic geopolitical reset which is taking place. We have to understand this political reset to understand if there are border threats, if there are collusive border threats, which will continue to persist in the future. The first of the points is that the Ukraine war itself has upset the recovery of the post-pandemic reset. We were hoping that in 1 to 2 years, the world would be able to recover. That's not so. India is one of those fortunate countries which has come to 6.7% growth, despite the fact that we lost minus 24% in the first year of the pandemic. The Ukraine war has upset a tremendous amount in terms of economics and energy. Global terror has taken a back step. That's a positive thing. But will a second cycle emerge? Because if you remember, global terror, regional terror, it forms the half front. When you talk about the 2.5 front wars, collusivity between Pakistan and China, the half front is always taken up by global terror and regional terror. There's chaos in the energy markets. Fortunately, we're looking at caps of $60 per barrel, but prices had gone up to $100 a barrel. And you saw cascading effects on the economy of the world. The world economy is growing, increased risk of recession. New strategic groupings are expected. A North grouping, which is the Turkey, Iran, China, well, goes on that way. And you'll see the southern grouping of the United States, Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, India, Australia, Japan. These are the kind of groupings that we are looking at. These were there pre-pandemic. These are expected to probably crystallize as we go along. The world GDP growth expected to be between 1.5 and 3%. Expect China to be about 3.5 and 5%, and India to be 6% or more. Will that be a reason? Will that be a reason for India being targeted for anything at all? Non-traditional security threats will root the security domain. So far, we have seen threats amounting to the use of military power, the use of the AK-47, the use of missiles, the use of, well, all kinds of weaponry. And now the new kid on the block, that is the drone. So is that going to be the ways of the future, or will security threats, new kinds of security threats, the non-traditional ones? And I need not remind you that perhaps one of the biggest threats is going to be climate change. COP27. You saw what's happened in Sharm el-Sheikh. No agreement between the various parties to the issue. So, what is the ways that are there going to be more pandemics? Is the economics going to be the angle? Is energy going to be the weapon? China's post-pandemic path and ability to control internal dissension. A lot was being read into it in the last few days. This is one of the few things which will also play a major role. So, as far as South Asia is concerned, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Bangladesh are all challenged that the cost of food and energy has also gone up. India is the only bright spot in South Asia. So, is the positivity about India, is this message of positivity about India likely to draw greater attention and make it the focus of negativity from our adversaries? It's a golden opportunity for India to win back influence in South Asia and neutralize China. Remembering the fact that 25 years ago, China decided to use the doctrine of the very famous, if you remember, the string of pearls. A lot of people have disputed it, that it was never really a doctrine. But if you just assume it, that it was a doctrine, it perhaps was a strategy which China was using to cultivate influence in India's neighborhood. Is it the golden opportunity for India to win back influence in South Asia and neutralize China? What should our policy be for that? It is also an equal opportunity for China to reactivate all that it had drawn down upon as far as cultivating influence in South Asia was concerned. In a competitive world with a young population, a dynamic human capital, India has all the potential to grow beyond the threshold of being a middle power. We are being classified as a middle power. Yes, we are proud of the fact that India has gone beyond just a emerging power. It's a middle power if you go by various definitions. This definition of being a middle power and going beyond the threshold of a middle power, this is what worries the Chinese. This is what worries the Pakistanis. Because both are neighbors, and India is in a very crucial geopolitical location. Of course, Pakistan also occupies such a position, as we'll come to it subsequently. But this is what worries the Chinese. So 30 years after the Cold War, the world was anyway moving towards a geopolitical reset. 2019, to my mind, 5 years after the coming of the current Indian leadership, 6 years after the coming of Xi Jinping, I think a political reset was inevitably taking place when the COVID pandemic came and gave it an impetus. Some of the bullets which you look at out here, there was a depletion of US power which was taking place, and the rapid rise of China with the enhanced ambition of its leadership. 2017, if you see the 19th Congress and the way it had set out the milestones to 2049. And we were looking at the permanent leadership of Xi Jinping. We were looking at 2035, and Xi Jinping would be 82 years old, something like Mao Zedong. And by 2035, China was hoping that it could achieve much of what Xi Jinping would leave behind as the effects of his leadership on China and the world. The resurgence of Russia was taking place. A relative cooling of transnational terror, which I just spoke about. The freedom of navigation and existence of a rule-based order was coming under challenge, which is what China was doing. China itself, knowing that its powers existed primarily towards the Pacific, which were always under challenge by the United States, it did not have the capability of a blue water navy to be able to rule the roost of the Indian Ocean. For that, it had to wait. It probably has to wait for a long time. And the importance of environment and climate was now really coming into being with, Glasgow and before that, other COP conferences which had taken place. And you're seeing what is happening in Pakistan this year, $30 to $40 billion which have been lost by the floods in the Indus River itself. A nation with looking for $9 billion loans loses $30 to $40 billion worth of damages and has 2.3 million refugees being created. You can imagine the internal security problem which comes about due to occurrence such as that. So this is what the environment of 2019 was. It is almost similar to what 2022-23 now is. The coronavirus pandemic has given it a bit of a boost, and that's how the whole situation is now panning out. The US desire is to shift the strategic center of gravity from the Middle East, from this area of Afghanistan, Eurasia, and take it to the Indo-Pacific, where it feels that the not so peaceful rise of China is something that it will have to confront. But this is something which has been pending since the 90s and could now be a major driver. The effort could be much more serious towards this. This is what President Biden was playing with when he took his decisions to leave Afghanistan at any cost on 31st of August 2021. Much to the reputation of the United States Armed Forces. But within 6 months, you found 24th of February, the United States was drawn into the proxy war in Ukraine. And for all that they wanted to move to the Indo-Pacific, the focus has come back to Europe, to an area which they never expected that it would come to, and possibly may cascade into Eurasia and even into the Middle East. So that brings us, with this background, it brings us to this map. And on this map, military people will probably be able to talk for hours. I wish to talk only for a couple of minutes on this to draw attention to a few things. A military mind looks at a map and starts drawing conclusions when he sees lines drawn all over, boundaries and things like that. The issues which come to mind here immediately, number one, let's look at Pakistan. Just a second. Let's look at Pakistan. And because Pakistan is one country which is geopolitically challenged and yet highly privileged. So whenever we look at such a map, I always turn to Pakistan first. Pakistan is a country which is surrounded by, with neighbors, 5 civilizations. No country in the world has got 5 civilizations. Let's count them. It's got the Indian civilization, it's got the Chinese civilization, it's got the Central Asian civilization, the Persian civilization, and the Arab civilization. No country in the world has 5 civilizations surrounding it. If you look at it from this angle, a civilizational angle, something to give to all these civilizations, something to take back. For example, an access into Central Asia, the unrealized hydrocarbon deposits here, to take out oil and gas from here, the easiest and the cheapest route is through Pakistan or Iran. Iran is geopolitically challenged because of its situation at the moment and its relationship with the only superpower. So it is Pakistan which rules the roost. And therefore, anything which has to come out from Central Asia has to come out through Pakistan. For example, the TAPI, the famous pipeline, Tajikistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, which will meet India's 25% of India's gas reserves. But no, Pakistan doesn't allow it because it knows that it will be to the economic advantage of India. So you see, Pakistan's, that's the favor it can do here, but it will not do. For China, the biggest thing for China that Pakistan can do is to give it overland access to the Arabian Sea, the northeast western part of the Indian Ocean, the crucial area of the waterways here. Yesterday, I was at a book launch and I was asked to speak for 5-10 minutes on Ukraine. And the one thing which I told my audience there was, why is this war being fought in Ukraine? And I explained to them this is being fought by the Russians for one prime reason. This is because of the waterways. Because if Russia loses control of the Black Sea, the only other control Russia has got to the sea is from Vladivostok here in the Pacific Ocean. Or to the Arctic Ocean, the Arctic seas here on top of the Arctic Ocean, which are anyway frozen. The only place from where it can make an access into the warm waters is from the Black Sea here. And if you remember 2015, China went into Syria. Russia went into Syria. For what reason? To protect and defend its port of Latakia. Because without that port, its access into the Mediterranean and this very important crucial belt would be not possible at all. So just remember that. Lots and lots of things are based upon waterways. The Chinese want to make access here. Why? China achieved 14% growth at one time. Overheated economy. It could only happen because of two reasons. It had full access to the hydrocarbons of the Middle East, which came from along the route of the Indian Ocean through the Straits of Malacca and onto the eastern seaboard where Shenzhen and other areas of Hong Kong where manufacturing was carried out. Manufacturing brought China into the sway and the 14% growth could be achieved because of that. Right? Now, what the Chinese have always feared is that if one country develops its maritime capability to the optimum level, and that is India, then the Indian Ocean will never be safe enough for the movement of Chinese energy traffic, nor its goods traffic. Because all the manufactured items go by container traffic, container ships, through the same routes to Africa, to Middle East, to the markets in India, to Europe. That's how the economy of China came about. And this is China's biggest fear. If you reflect back to trust deficit, China's trust deficit comes because of this. It suspects that one day India will rise, it will be instigated, it will create a maritime capability so powerful that that it will be able to interfere with the movement of the Chinese goods and energy traffic. It needs, therefore, overland sea routes. And those overland sea routes are through Pakistan. The inevitable China-Pakistan economic corridor. And now the emerging Iran-China relationship, because the same routes can go through Tajikistan, Turkmenistan into Iran. So this is the importance, once again, of Pakistan. There are many other things like this. Just must remember one thing. One of the ways that China has found to ensure that India does not pay balanced attention or does not pay sufficient attention to its maritime capability is through one strategy. And that is keep India activated on the Himalayan front. Keep the threats on the land borders so intense and active that the gullible Indian public, the gullible Indian strategic community will always say, no loss of land, no loss of ground. भाड़ में जाए sea, भाड़ में जाए ocean, but we must not lose any land. Right? This is a ploy that the Chinese have used against our minds. Psychological warfare. And from 2005, every year, a walk-in operation. What is a walk-in operation? Come to a certain part of Ladakh, come and leave a flag behind, leave a few tins of fish or fruit or something to say, this is my land, go back. And it plays on your adversary's mind that this is disputed territory. And because of that, one day we may have to go to war with China. And therefore, we need a mountain strike corps. We need this, we need that, we need more resources. And we continue putting all our eggs into one basket on the land borders, while the threat actually exists somewhere else. Now, this has been very successfully done by the Chinese, playing mind games into us. Fortunately, India's strategic community today is coming of age and has realized this. And this is something that the future leaderships will have to overcome. This inevitable obsession with our land borders, loss of ground, loss of territory, etc. Not realizing that our capability lies there deep south, all along the Indian Ocean. That's why this ocean is called the Indian Ocean. Anyway, we can speak on this for hours, so I thought I must just tell you the broad areas for Pakistan. Pakistan is the confluence of civilizations. It is the bridge between West Asia to South Asia. It is more comfortable being Arab than South Asian. It gives you access to the heart of Asia. It also gives reverse access to the Indian Ocean. And it flanks Shia Iran. So it becomes an inevitable partner of the Saudis, although its relationship with Saudi Arabia isn't as warm as it was in the earlier years. And it considers Afghanistan territory as a strategic depth. And strangely, the relationship between Afghanistan and Pakistan today is also heading towards coming into doldrums. So it's a very awkward kind of a situation which is emerging at the moment, much to the advantage of India. Few things let me just try and explain you here on this board. Although let me tell you, I may not be able to complete all my 34 slides in the 1 hour, but whatever we do, it achieve a lot, because this particular map is a map which will explain a tremendous amount to you. This is Jammu and Kashmir. The whole of Jammu and Kashmir is represented here. But most people will not remember what is the actual status of this today. And General Dwivedi, the Army Commander, Northern Command's recent statement that if the government gives us orders, we will be ready to take back Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. It has created a shindy all over. I had to go public to defend the Army Commander myself and say all he was talking of was a contingency. There was nothing political in what he said at all. And army officers, senior army officers, or once in a while, must make these media statements. And they must send across these messages to your adversary. So that is why I thought it's important for us to explain this. Not just remember, if you just follow my cursor, the whole of Jammu and Kashmir, the actual portion which is with us at the moment is only this green line, purple line, and up to this area here. This is all that is with us. The rest of it, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir here, the Gilgit-Baltistan area, and this whole area is generically called Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, right? This is Aksai Chin, which is under the control of China. And this is the area of the Shaksgam Valley, which was ceded by Pakistan to China for the construction of the Karakoram highway, which got finally constructed only way back in 1979. So there are certain borders here which you need to know about. What are these borders? The first of them is the international border. If you see the cursor here, no disputes here. It's called the international border. Pakistan likes to call it the working boundary, not the international border. They think there's a finality to this border which has to be yet settled, while we are clear there's nothing at all which has to be settled. The important part is this pink line or the purple line which starts from here, which is about 770 kilometers up to here, up to a point called NJ 9842. This is the line of control. What is the line of control? That's the place where the two armies came to rest in 1947-48, in 1965, and in 1971, right? As is where is, it is demarcated on ground, it is delineated on ground, Under the Suchetgarh Agreement, there's a signature of General P.S. Bhagat on the map, authenticated. Right? So there is a distinct line to work upon. That's an important aspect. At 9842, from 9842 up to a place called Indra Call, is a 121 kilometers imaginary line, not delineated. Is called the actual ground position line, also called the AGPL 121 kilometers, which actually virtually demarcates the Siachen Glacier, right? Not officially, but virtually demarcates the Siachen Glacier. So that's where Siachen is. I happen to have commanded my unit at the Siachen Glacier. Now here comes the area of Siachen, of Aksai. These red lines you're seeing here, our perception of the LAC is this, should be this. China's perception of the LAC is this, line of actual control. There's a lot of difference between the LAC and the LOC. This line is neither demarcated nor delineated and keeps changing as per perception. China gives us perception every other day. From 1993 till 2022, in 21 meetings, China has never ever given us what its actual perception of the line of actual control is. That is a weapon by itself. Keeping your adversary, in this case, we are the adversary of China, keeping the adversary guessing. क्या है? लाइन कहाँ है? मैप कौन से मैप पर है? किस मैप पे कहाँ से दरार पड़ रही है? All this is information, keeping you in the information, outside the information loop, and not resolving the problem, because China does not want a resolution of this problem. If China resolves this problem, it will free up India's northern borders, and India will have the capability to go in for a much more comprehensive kind of a security setup, looking at its air force and looking at its naval power in a much more focused way. Today, I'm from the army, proud to wear the green uniform, but let me tell you today, we are an army-focused armed forces, ground-focused, land-focused, primarily because of our obsession with land, zameen ke saath, sarzameen ke saath. That is what our obsession is today. Okay, so these are important aspects to remember. Now, just remember also, एक चीज आपको याद होनी चाहिए. Everyone should know this. I'm taking you back. I'm drawing your attention to this portion. This is the G219 highway. This is the highway which links Tibet to Xinjiang, north mein. And it passes through this area of Aksai Chin, which is Indian, actually belongs to us. The Chinese have constructed this highway illegally. And to give themselves depth, they want to keep this area occupied by their occupation, the LAC, so that we cannot interfere with the movement on this highway. That is the prime reason why the Chinese are all the time in this area and do not wish to vacate this. Just remember this much. It's very, very simple. Also, this particular map may be able to explain to you just how close Siachen Glacier is to the Karakoram Pass, Daulat Beg Oldie. This is the Aksai Chin area. This is Daulat Beg Oldie is with us, but this is the area occupied by the Chinese. And you can see how much the distance is. Those who say today that Siachen Glacier should be vacated by India should think about this particular gap here. Because if India vacates the Siachen Glacier, this area has to be occupied by China and Pakistan to get continuity. I agree that the terrain is terrible, terrible, terrible out here. But yes, continuity is still possible. These are some of the other areas along the Sino-Indian border where disputes exist. The McMahon line in Arunachal Pradesh. You have a Doklam here, which you have had a standoff with China. You've got disputed areas along Uttarakhand and the Himachal border here. And of course, then you've got Ladakh, the whole area of Ladakh and the Shakska Valley. Now, you may recall 5th of August 2019, when Article 370 was amended. Amended, not really removed, it was amended. And on 31st October, we published this map showing the whole of Ladakh. There's Aksai Chin here, Shaksgam Valley here, Gilgit-Baltistan here, the whole of Ladakh in blue, and the whole of Pakistan occupied Kashmir, which includes the areas of Mirpur, Muzaffarabad, Kotli, etc., all shown in yellow or gold. This was to send home the message that the whole of Jammu and Kashmir belongs to India, as per the instrument of accession signed on 26th of October 1947 and reinforced on 22nd of February 1994 by a joint parliamentary resolution with all parties coming together, both houses of parliament coming together to pass a resolution that every inch of territory ceded by the Maharaja of Kashmir to the Union of India under the instrument of accession belongs to India, and we will strive to get it back. This map is very important. It's a cartographic message to the world that Jammu and Kashmir belongs to India. So as the pandemic struck the world and India too, the Chinese PLA chose to up the ante against India on the line of actual control in April 2020. Just at the time when all of us are struggling with the first wave, that's the time when you suddenly saw the news in the morning newspapers that April 2020, and this was discovered more in May of 2020, that the Chinese have brought in 50,000 troops against us. Why? What was the reason for it? That's important. The standoff continues even after 16 rounds of military meetings and partial withdrawals, which have taken place since 2020. So let's look at the Chinaman syndrome. What really forced them to do it? The 1962 border war and the Chinaman syndrome. This is what is important to just remember. From 62, we were defeated. Okay. We came to the Nathula incident, in which it was a border standoff. We caused a huge amount of casualties, particularly through artillery, on the Chinese at Nathula, refused to budge. General Sagat Singh undertook all his decisions and was reinforced by the government. We stood our ground and proved that 62 could have just been an aberration. Thereafter, nothing much happened. In 1978, China started undergoing a change. 4 modernizations came into being. Deng Xiaoping brought about the 4 modernizations. 4 modernizations, just as a reminder, was nothing but the modernization of agriculture, industry, technical education, and 4th, modernization of the PLA. Now, in the modernization of the PLA, the Chinese made one major mistake, and it's important for an audience like you to know this mistake. The mistake that the Chinese made was that they gave the last priority to the PLA Navy. They gave first priority to the PLA Army, that's the People's Liberation Army, then to the Air Force, and then to the Navy. They thought, like much of the world thinks, that the naval power is only for trade, not realizing that the requirement of a blue water navy would have given China the major advantage today. They are 20 years behind the United States. 15 modern aircraft carriers which the United States has got. China has got 3 of them today. So this is one of the major mistakes that Deng made, or the Chinese made at that time. Subsequently, of course, we had the incident of Sundarong-Chu in 1986-87, when India stood its ground again in Arunachal Pradesh, led to Rajiv Gandhi's 1988 visit to Beijing, and subsequently the signing of the Peace and Tranquility Agreement in 1993, based upon which various instruments, various platforms were set up, various rounds of talks, 21 rounds of talks particularly, were held to no avail. So the impasse of 2020 was a result of some of the following assessments which I have made. The first was a rapid change in the geopolitical environment with the COVID-19 pandemic having broken out. The world was pointing fingers at China. Just like today, China seems to be the only country which is obsessed with lockdowns. They feel that they have their own ways of doing things. In 2019, in December, people like me, I'm not sure about you, but people like me were being very, very naive. We said, Anedo, let the virus come to India. India's 42 degrees centigrade will destroy the virus. I mean, that's the kind of things we were talking about in those days, not realizing this pandemic would put us back by minus 24% as far as our economy was concerned. Then China had its Doklam image deficit. You remember 2017, they finally, after 72 days, they withdrew. And the reason for it was because the BRICS summit was coming up, the 20th and the 19th Congress was coming up for the Chinese Communist Party. And they couldn't afford to have a standoff taking place on the borders. And therefore, they felt that an image deficit had been created about China's image. And they must overcome this through some kind of a military action against India. Curbing India's runaway strategic confidence after the Article 370 abrogation. These events in April took place, well, how much? 8 months after the 5th of August decisions. And we made some strong statements, perhaps in Parliament. We had made some strong statements in the media. The Indian media, you know, goes overboard. And we sent out a message as if we had, despite the Chinese, despite the Pakistanis, the world can say what they want. Kashmir belongs to India and we will take our decisions again. The Chinese wanted to perhaps send home some kind of a message. The strategic messaging to the world on China's new ambition, premier power by 2035, in the lifetime of Xi Jinping. Now, taking advantage of the downturn in the US comprehensive national power, which was evident, which was taking place every day, we were seeing how the pandemic was hitting the United States and hitting the US economy in particular. The Chinese seem to have got a little carried away. So what was India's strategy in April 2020? Number one, the Wuhan virus. They wanted to remove this label of the Wuhan virus and bring back the focus onto something more geopolitical. The image deficit had to be overcome. Wolf warrior diplomacy was being attempted against a larger nation. It was attempted against Hong Kong within itself, within its own country, against Philippines. It had been tried against Australia. It had been tried against Vietnam, the fishing boat incidents which were taking place there. So perhaps it was an experiment to see, will wolf warrior diplomacy actually work against a rising middle power? Of course, I spoke about the Doklam image and keeping India, as I mentioned earlier, reinforcing that perception of mine, keeping India focused to the Himalayan front. The main threat to China is in the maritime zone. And China realizes it. Its cultivation of Sri Lanka, its cultivation of the Maldives, its necessity to keep the northeast Indian Ocean under control, the Djibouti to Chabahar area, that area, all under its influence. So it's very, very important. Continuing with China's India strategy, worried by the improved Indian capability, it won't resolve the LAC, nor will it delineate it. Keeping the LAC in a state of dispute works to the advantage of China. And to do that, enhanced collusion with Pakistan, to give the impression, a perception to India and the world that the second arm of the Belt and Road Initiative, the first arm going through, the northern areas in Gilgit-Baltistan, which are not so firm areas, very earthquake prone, etc. The second arm of the Belt and Road Initiative would come through Ladakh. That is, through perhaps through the Leh Valley itself, or it could come through the Nubra Valley and head into Gilgit-Baltistan, but alternative ways. And it perceives India to be an obstacle in the path to greatness. This, as I said, is the whole aspect of the trust deficit. So, if you really look at it, Ladakh is the area where dual threats, where Pakistan can actually come to the assistance of China in a huge way. Of course, China can conduct operations in Arunachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, or anywhere else, and yet have the Pakistan army making faces from across the Western Front and tying down a sizable number of our reserves there. But the place where this act comes into physicality is actually the area of Jammu and Kashmir, where operations can be undertaken in the Aksai Chain area. And you can see its linkages. That's why I thought I'd show you this whole map to see this is Kargil. This is Kargil. This is the area of Kashmir, this side. and this is Kargil, which is also part of Ladakh. So operations by Pakistan can take place here, although difficult to conduct these operations because Pakistan has to swing around its logistics all the way here. But nevertheless, the presence of Pakistan Army here forces us to keep a sizable number of our troops in this area. And while the Chinese are conducting operations in the Aksai area. See, this is the linkages which I wanted to show you, which I've already explained to you in some way. Daulat Beg Oldies, Siachen Glacier. This is the new road, 320-kilometer road, which took a long time to construct, very, very difficult terrain. This is the Pangong Tso, small sliver of territory of the Pangong Tso. So, just to explain this, the dynamics of the situation at the border. First of all, May 2020, if the Chinese came with 60,000 troops, it took us 2 months to build up 60,000 troops. And I think the Indian Air Force needs to be complimented for the manner in which the strategic airlift was conducted. Very large quantum of armor has been delivered into that area. I could not have imagined that this amount of air vehicles could find their way into the desert areas of across the Ladakh range in Ladakh. The Kailash heights in the area of the Pangong Tso were secured as a quid pro quo by us. Now they have been vacated. It was good thinking, quick thinking, must compliment the commanders at that time. It happened on 31st of August. The Chinese occupation of those areas took place in April, early May. It took the better part of 3 months for us to gain strategic balance, I would say operational balance, before we could conduct an operation. And this operation was a QPQ in which a shot was not fired. No shot was fired, but this area was still unoccupied. We went and secured. If you see, I use the word secured and not captured. The Indian Air Force advantage. We have got a great advantage of the Indian Air Force in this area. And any good flyer will explain you this. It's a question of the heights from which our aircraft take off with their all-up weight. They keep full munitions available to them. The Chinese, most of the airfields are at 15,000 feet, and that advantage is not there. But they have a missile advantage. They have a larger missile forces available to them, and that is something which we have to build upon much more. The winter logistics is a major challenge. It's much easier on the Chinese side because there's a plain flat area. Ours is right from Pathankot, through Manali, all the way to Leh, or through Srinagar, through Kargil, all the way to Leh is nothing but up and down, climbing up to 15,000, 16,000 feet and down and climbing up again. It's a major challenge. Just as a practical orientation, one vehicle leaving Pathankot and going to, let's say, to Leh will take at least 10 to 12 days to come back. That's the amount of time one vehicle. You can imagine how many vehicles you require just to be able to dump your loads, and you need thousands of tons of loads. We are fortunate we have got a strategic airlift capability today with the Air Force. Otherwise, it is impossible to fight a war in Ladakh. So the LOC type deployment on the LAC is partially avoided. It's been done. China requires many more troops for campaign style operations. 60,000 troops, you can't capture Ladakh. Let me tell you, let's be very clear on this. If they brought 60,000 troops to show us and our public that they are going to defeat the Indian army and capture Ladakh, then the PLA should go back and learn lessons from Putin, perhaps. Go back and look at Ukraine. They also, everyone thought that it would be a overnight operation taking place in Ukraine. And you see the operations are going on till today, right? So matching mirror-like deployments of 60,000 troops don't lead to major campaign-style victories. Neither military diplomatic talks are continuing, and these are a means of stalling. I'm very clear in my mind, these are a means of stalling and nothing else. No results are likely to come from this. So what should one expect over the next 3 years? And I'm coming to the Pakistan part, which I'm only devoting 10 minutes to. What should one expect over the next 3 years? China is watchful after Russia's Ukraine experience. That's the first bullet I'm looking at. Military victory is beyond military superiority. Don't just think that I am militarily superior, so I will win the war. No, that's no longer possible. You got to look at it more comprehensively. China is also concerned about India's strategic confidence under Prime Minister Modi. A stalemate at the high Himalayas will be perceived as an Indian victory. Therefore, the Chinese are unlikely to initiate something which they cannot end on their terms. Conflict initiation must end with conflict termination on your terms. Diversion from Taiwan is unlikely, yet the threat in being will be projected. If anything which Ukraine has achieved is to put caution into the minds of China, that Taiwan may not easily be winnable. Remember, the power of the Quad is not a military coalition, but remember the coalitions which can be put up in the Indo-Pacific probably outweigh China many times over. They are wary of India's strategic autonomy, the autonomy that we have achieved, particularly during this Ukrainian crisis. And they are aware that they cannot point fingers at India diplomatically either, because India has played its own game, it's played its own mind. India has not blindly supported the United States, neither has it blindly supported the Russians. And in fact, Mr. Modi's statement at the SCO summit on this not being the season for war is a phrase which should probably go down in history and will probably need to be analyzed much more. I don't think it's been analyzed sufficiently thus far. And active propaganda, very, very active propaganda, information warfare, the weapon of the current times, should be expected. And what's happened at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences is a precursor to lots of things which are going to happen to us in the near future. So if we are not looking at the cyber route, then this is something that we need to do much more. Let me come to Pakistan, and I will finish this in 10 minutes to make sure that we have the duality of threats together. What are the drivers of conflict with Pakistan today? One of the biggest things to my mind is the Pakistan sentiment for retribution. Retribution for what? 1971. It's something the Pakistan army has not got over. And if you sit down with Pakistani generals in track twos, I have attended 30 of these track twos. When you sit down with Pakistani generals, the perception you come away with is that Pakistan still continues to believe that they have not lost the 71 war. They only lost Bangladesh. They lost East Pakistan, but they did not lose the war. They said that war, it was an uneven war created by India in such a way. This is what they talk about. The Islamic Connect. You see, the Islamic Connect is a very important aspect. They hope that through the Islamic Connect, they keep India under pressure. They keep the Indian Muslim population under pressure. They keep going back to the OIC to put the region under pressure. So the Islamic connection is a very important aspect here. The role of political Islam overall. This needs a session by itself to explain. The waters issue, the Indus waters particularly, and Pakistan is a country which is going to suffer from the water problem inevitably over the next many years, and the control of waters of Pakistan still continue to be with India. The China factor and the connectivity I've already explained. The winds from Afghanistan flowing. Pakistan doesn't have control of Afghanistan, and Pakistan does not want India to take control of Afghanistan. It is already grimacing under the fact that India-Taliban relations are already improving, actually. And then there's the Pakistani deep state, which I just spoke about, the Pakistani generals who do not want to leave control. You've seen what General Bajwa has retired with, 12-14 billion rupees in the accounts, they say. And of course, lastly, the rising strategic confidence of India. If Pakistan feels that this strategic confidence will continue, then all the last 30 years investment in Jammu and Kashmir, in causing mayhem and dismay in the rest of India, all that has gone waste. So the important aspect is, will there be a military intent? Will the internal turbulence which is going on in Pakistan today, Will it curb its external ambition? Do we feel that with the $12 billion foreign exchange reserves that they've got with them, the economy in shambles completely, Pakistan, despite all that is happening in the internal security front, in the internal political front, it will want to still continue its mission in Jammu and Kashmir and rest of India, etc. That's the moot point. And for that, I could take you to the most important slide, I would say, of this whole presentation. This is the strategy which Ziaul Haq conceived way back in 1977 when he overthrew Zulfikar Bhutto. Clearly, Pakistan is unable to match India's conventional army, nor its economic strength to achieve any retribution for 71. Very clear. Economically, Pakistan cannot match. Conventional army, it cannot match. It is necessary to achieve nuclear parity to overcome this asymmetry. They did it. They did it. By hook or by crook, they went and achieved nuclear parity. And then launch a war by 1,000 cuts with the support, a tacit support of the OIC. That's the Islamic community, 57 countries of the OIC. They haven't got the support of all 57 countries. But from time to time, they've got a majority support. And well, Jammu and Kashmir has been discussed, the role, the status of Indian Muslims has been discussed many times in the OIC, as we are aware. But what is important is the decision to launch a hybrid war. Lots of hybrid wars have been launched the world over. The last very successful hybrid war was launched by the Russians in Crimea, in Donbass. From 2014 till 2022, a hybrid war was launched. A hybrid war is what? It's a war of the millennium, which combines various parts of the spectrum of conflict. Part conventional, part irregular, part terrorism and part cyber. Narcotics involved, economics involved, political warfare, ideology, transnational crime riding on the networks created by Dawood Ibrahim, violent extremism, psychological warfare, war by communication, bits and pieces of the spectrum. You don't have to use all of them. Pick up bits and pieces from here and there, combine them together, optimize them for yourself. So today's master strategists know how to optimize hybrid warfare. It provides flexibility, longevity, and can only be defeated by a full spectrum all-of-government approach. And an all-of-government approach takes many years to be realized and that many more years to be executed, as we are realizing in Jammu and Kashmir today. It's the best example of hybrid war, Russian efforts in Ukraine from 2014 onwards. Now I'm coming to the end. Allow me 5 minutes more. I think we'll be able to wrap up this. What was India's success and failure against Pakistan? It's important for us to just know where the failures have taken. We've been very successful in reducing the strength of terrorists. There has been no dearth of courage on the part of our soldiers, of our policemen. The problem is our last mile syndrome. Never understood. Limited initiatives have been taken place. And very, very poor understanding of our cultural terrain. Over-reliance on kinetics. Unfortunately, this is not an Indian approach. The world over, the whole issue of terror and the use of terror, the use of irregular warfare, inevitably the response was an over-reliance on kinetics. It's necessary sometimes, but it must be accompanied at the earliest by a better understanding of the cultural terrain of the location in which you're fighting. This has not taken place as far as we are concerned. We also have not bothered sufficiently to understand the cultural terrain of Jammu and Kashmir, for example. Weak strategic communication, the inability to get, for example, Jammu and Kashmir regions on the same plate. Efforts have not been made. Sufficient efforts have not been made. While strategic communication is one of the most important arms of fighting irregular warfare. The lack of political will to peg the Indian claim strongly. We are seeing this now happening. 2019 onwards, we are seeing this happening. And now these statements from time to time coming from the Raksha Mantri, from the Army Commander, Northern Command, etc., GOC 15 Corps, that POK, if the orders are given, we will take it back, etc. This is a good psychological build-up, I would say. It's a good psychological build-up, and this is a good messaging which is going on for the moment. It shows that we have overcome those conventional mindsets that we were obsessed with in the past. A very high degree of strategic confidence has defined Pakistan's pursuance of its national interests. In fact, there's always been a level of cockiness about it. As I was explaining to you, the Pakistani generals tell me they have never lost the 71 war. So, Pakistan's national interests, you can see, I think I have explained these already and I need not go into them. Finally, what are the takeaways from this long 1 hour monologue which I have given you, in which I may have bored you to death completely? But let me tell you, the takeaways are very important here. There is an India-China asymmetry. Don't expect lasting peace. It won't happen. What we are doing at the moment is negotiations to create a temporary set of measures to find peace at our borders. But the asymmetry continues, and we must endeavor to overcome this asymmetry. There is no option for India but to ramp up its economy, its military modernization, and its cyber domain. Very, very important. Its enhanced maritime capability and overcome its obsession with its land borders. We need to long-range missiles, nuclear weapons, etc. Everything, every aspect of weaponry must be looked into. Both nations can do business as usual. We can take our trade from $120 billion to $200 billion, contingent upon China's attitude. India must work towards a clear strategic partnerships. We cannot say that we are alone. We need to just confront China alone. We must continue working towards clear strategic partnerships. Being a part of the Quad or any other partnerships in the Indo-Pacific should be an inevitability, absolutely. And India must keep Pakistan on strategic tenterhooks. We must not think in terms of Pakistan being run down because of circumstances, because of the threat of climatic conditions, etc. But we must also remember that an imploding Pakistan, 200 million population of Pakistan implodes, the effects of that, the demographic effects of that will inevitably travel on India. India must match China's information and cyber capability. This is an area where we are still wanting. We need to do this much more seriously. And finally, let any subsequent COVID waves be handled like war. Medical infrastructure be developed as never before. I think the government of India has done well on this, but any amount that we do on medical from now onwards, we must realize that pandemics can do much more against economies than wars can. And therefore, these must be treated as wars. Work amicably in cooperation with the international community, accept faults, if any, and endeavor to help others. Maintain vigil in all security domains, borders, internal, cyberspace, information, and financial. That means comprehensive security. Invest in technical research and startups to create a manufacturing base. Invest in education. Current challenges of higher education are immense. And work on poverty alleviation. Remember, the Chinese lifted 750 million people out of poverty. And then they could start looking at the world and making eyes at it. Remember this lesson. India must be a lead nation. It should not be a balancing nation. It's a very important statement. It must be a lead nation and not a balancing nation. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I've overstepped my time by about 4 minutes, but I'm absolutely open to questions, and I'm going to stop sharing this presentation at this instant, and you'll see me appearing, and I shall be there for the next, not necessarily 30 minutes, as much time as you wish.
General Hasnain, sir, if I had to express what your talk did to us today, I would just say that you have left us mesmerized. While we have had the opportunity to read or listen to your views in the public domain, having you here in this forum to address us specifically has been an unparalleled experience. Most important of all, it's the humbling effect of the way you started your talk. I'm very confident all of us from now on, before we start anything, will remember those who gave their tomorrow for our today. So, you have put across an issue as dynamic and complex as this in a manner that has been followed right from the young cadet in the Sainik School to senior veterans to members of the audience who are not in uniform. Your vast knowledge, rich experience, deep insights, and great wisdom have generated so much interest that we are flooded with questions from a wide cross-section of the audience seeking more from you. I'm now joined by Colonel Satish Gundagi of the 1978 batch, 83 batch of our school in moderating the question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Jan Baswaraj. That was very kind of you, a very kind summation of what I spoke. But I can assure you I spoke from the heart. And I'm glad you took note of the fact that for the last 10 years after my retirement, 9 years after my retirement, this is the format of the beginning of any presentation I have given anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world.
Our hearts have been touched, sir. We begin the question and answer session from a question by Major General K.N. Mirji, Vishit Seva Medal retired. He is not here, he could not join us due to some exigency. So I will read out the question for you. The emerging geopolitical scenario indicates that Pakistan no longer poses a credible threat in the conventional domain. While cross-border terror may continue for some years. On the Chinese front, while her hawkish belligerence is likely to continue, no major armed conflict is likely because of the Quad and her declining economy. Going forward, will this two-front threat be a short to medium threat, or will it continue to remain a long-term challenge? Your comments, sir.
Thank you. I think that's an excellent question and drafted out very well. Perhaps during the talk itself, I did allude to this at one stage. And that was at the point where I mentioned that among the options that are available in terms of collusivity, it's not necessary to jump to the higher end of the spectrum and go into conventional war fighting itself. But yes, the Chinese are extremely wary about maritime power, Indian maritime power. Our ability to perhaps cooperate, ally with the various other maritime powers like the United States, Japan, Australia, UK, etc., Vietnam in this case, and create the potential to strangulate Chinese capability, energy capability, goods container traffic capability to sail through the Indian Ocean. This is something which has always been a perception in the Chinese mind. And therefore, as I did mention, from time to time, it is necessary to keep the Indian borders active. These need not be active with full spectrum conventional wars, but through proxies or through small actions, through the half front. And therefore, I do feel that innovative ways will be found. For example, I mean, we never thought something like Doklam could happen, something like what happened in Ladakh in April 2020 could actually really happen in that way. The Chinese are innovative. They will find different ways of doing things, but they will not take it to the conventional extreme. They will expect from Pakistan the useful aspect of Pakistan to the Chinese strategy is advice. But I think the Chinese still don't know India sufficiently. The high Himalayas have somehow, guarded India from knowledge, information flow to a great extent. Also, Pakistan understands India. Pakistan understands the Indian mind. It's the South Asian mind particularly, and therefore they will depend on them. Remember, India has a 200 million minority Muslim population. Who understands the Muslim population better than the Pakistani mind? And they've attempted to do it. They're fortunate they have not been able to exploit it, but they've attempted to do it many times. They've tried it in the Northeast, they've tried it in Jammu and Kashmir, they've tried it in South, but somehow they have not succeeded to that extent. But the inevitable half front that we speak about, the potentiality exists, and therefore we should not wish it away. So I think the option that will probably emerge at the end of the day is not conventional at all. It is a question of diversion. It's a question of pinpricks and preventing India from actually giving its full focus to the maritime front on one hand, and develop its own capabilities of cultivation of its neighborhood. You will find Chinese efforts in the neighborhood are going to redouble. I think somewhere the Chinese took their hands off. You've seen it in the case of Sri Lanka, in the case of Maldives, Nepal, they've been fairly active. In the case of Bangladesh, they have not been so active. I do feel that in the near future, this reach out and not alignment, but reach out engagement with our neighborhood is going to redouble. Because these are better ways of doing things rather than activating borders on the high Himalayas. My answer.
Thank you very much, sir. The next question is from Air Vice Marshal Vikas Yajurvedi, AVSM VM retired. Over to you, Yajurvedi, sir.
One second, sir. I'm unmuting. Vikas, sir, you are able to unmute?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. We can hear you.
Hi, Syed. It's really a great pleasure, and we feel so enlightened for having given this talk to us. Okay. If my apologies for asking a bit of a sensitive question, maybe. Okay, now this is to do with the trust deficit which you have been talking about, especially with China and, of course, Pakistan, with lots of reasons. I just wanted to say that, between the three services of the Indian Armed Forces, we'd love to have synergy so that we can make a 2 + 2 = 5 instead of a 4. And at the other end of the spectrum could be of course, not a very likable situation is called the trust deficit. And as a civilian also, even not from the Air Force point of view, it came to the fore during the theaterization of the armed forces. And we may be getting into the pitfall of lifting a template from the American model, essentially the Goldwater Nicholas. Rather than coming up with an original thought in this regard, maybe we'd like to have a Chanakya 2.0 on this one instead of, what is your view on that aspect of it? Especially so as an army guy, and you have been bold enough to say that we've been army-centric in our approach to our security and probably ignoring the naval aspect of it. So maybe I would like to see.
Thank you. It's not a sensitive question at all. It's not a sensitive question, I would say. Because I have been very open about this in all my statements. In the last many years, I have been speaking my mind. And I don't know if anyone would disagree with me in the sense, how can anyone disagree with the fact that India's obsession has been land? We have been land-centric. I mean, the olive green uniform, if you say anything about defense services, the first thought which comes to your mind is the combat uniform. It's not the blue, it's not the white. Let's be very clear about it. The war of 62, it is the soldier who died. So the sacrifice, the people who are put on a pedestal are those who make the sacrifice. Right? Unfortunately, in the case of the Air Force, it is the officer who is the pilot. He dies. Very few of them. Right? They are made heroes. They need to be made heroes, but the focus still remains on the soldier. 65 again. Abdul Hamid, Paramveer Chakra. How many Paramveer Chakras has the Air Force One? One. Right? So what I'm saying is, let's accept it. World over, most middle powers, right? This will happen. And those countries which have border issues will always be land-centric. They'll be army-centric. Now, if your threats enlarge, in case of India, they're enlarging, you've got a huge neighbor on one side. Pakistan, let me tell you, today we can temporarily say, okay, they've run out of steam. No guarantee that steam is not going to come back, right? That steam will come back. At one stage, 71 they ran out of steam. In 6 years they were back, and they were troubling you in Punjab. In 18 years they were troubling you in Srinagar, in Kashmir. You had no answers, right? You had no answers to irregular warfare. You had no answers to CIA counterinsurgency and counter-terrorism. You had no answers to infiltration. Pakistan kept us on tenterhooks on infiltration. We had no answers. So threats will come, threats will go over a period of time. What we have to look at is, the synergy which you speak about, 2 + 2 = 5. That's a very important aspect. If you're putting in all your nation's resources and efforts to buy such expensive weaponry, do research and development, you need to develop your human resource capability simultaneously, put all this together. And let's not have situations where, the Navy has got its own something running here, the Air Force has got something else, the Army has got something else in different directions. What happened with the Goldwater-Nichols Act? 1986, finally a legislation had to be done. It's through the legislation route finally that theaterization came about in the United States. We need not follow that model blindly. But in the case of India, I still think it's premature. We need to do much more study on this.
Yes.
We need to do much more study on this. And let's not be afraid of making mistakes. Let's take some decisions, try implementing them, and try tweaking them from time to time, progressively taking a stock of where have we gone wrong. Because otherwise, this paralysis by analysis will continue forever. Right? I meet the CDS every morning on the Central Vista when I go for a walk. I meet him every morning. We say hello to each other, and I say, best of luck. I hope you achieve your aims. This is what you are there for. A quiet, good man who has worked with me before in the earlier years. Very, very good choice, I think. I think over a period of time, this larger understanding is more psychological than anything else. Larger understanding has to be clear. Senior leaderships have to be intellectually oriented and have to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each service. Once that is clear, and you have no ego, I have no ego, and no ego. The color of the uniform doesn't matter at all. For me, it is the end result which will matter. Make mistakes. Achieve 30% in the beginning in your first decisions. Don't look at final outcomes. But with that, continue and progress. Because if you are looking for a 95% solution today, that will never come. It will never come. That's the way I look at it.
Thank you. Thank you for the honest answer.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Commodore Arvind Shigaon. Over to you, Arvind Shigaon, sir.
Sir, you are muted. Yeah.
Thank you. General Sir, you couldn't have been more direct when you chastised our focus or preoccupation with our land borders. Zameen, as you said, more aptly. I will also be equally direct when I say that the PLA Navy's belligerence in the South China Sea and the increased footprints in the
I think we lost communication there. Hello?
What proactive options can India bring to bear on China?
Sir, I think we lost you for a little while. Could you just go back once again to just repeat that question once again? So sorry.
Okay. I compliment and so highlighting our preoccupation with Zameen.
Sir, you have a weak internet.
Sir, just to save on time, I'll read out the question on his
Okay.
behalf.
Right.
So the Chinese domination in the South China Sea with the expansion of its Yulin nuclear submarine base at Hainan and its growing influence in Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Djibouti, and Africa amongst others.
Technology has begun to play truant finally.
Yes, sir. Is the dreaded Chinese necklace of pearls an imminent threat to India's maritime interest in the Indian Ocean? What proactive measures should India adopt to mitigate this threat?
Thank you, sir. I think you need a white warrior, a sailor, to really answer this question. But let me tell you, a couple of years ago, the Chanakya Journal, Admiral Menon, in fact, asked me to write. I said, I'm a landlubber. He said, no. I've been noticing you've been speaking a lot on maritime issues suddenly. So why don't you write something for us? I said, okay, great. That's the first attempt I made on writing something about the Indian Ocean at that particular time. But I have always felt very strongly that the Chinese were playing mind games with us in the Himalayas. You know, coming 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers inside, fooling around with us, sending a message here and there, etc. Every year, it was only psychological warfare and nothing else which was happening. And we were obsessed. We had not moved large-scale formations, of course, but our minds were getting affected. And all our discussions were getting centered on this. Suddenly, we find that our capability, rather our obsession with the Mountain Strike Corps started around about 2010 or so. Very romantic idea. And I am not critical of Mountain Strike Corps at all. Very, very much required. If we talk about strategic dissuasion, if we talk about deterrence in the future, etc., then you need to have the resources, and the Mountain Strike Corps was inevitable. The requirement was there very much. But more than that, we needed a reverse psychological warfare against the Chinese mind to tell them the Indian Ocean, if you think the South China Sea is the South China Sea, then the Indian Ocean is the Indian Ocean. We needed to send this. I spoke on this at the Indian Ocean Conference in Hanoi. The Chinese reps who were there were talking about the South China Sea business. The Indian Ocean does not belong to India. I said, who says the South China Sea belongs to South China, to China? Right? The Indian Ocean is, we are the crown. India is the crown occupying the Indian Ocean. And we had a running argument there in that conference, I still remember. So at the end of the day, it's more about the mind, sir, than anything else. We have to overcome this issue of the mind. And we have to start allocating resources. The Chinese are not going to come to war against you in the Himalayas. And particularly after Ukraine. As I said in the middle, a stalemate is Indian victory. It's like 1965, the Pakistanis still claim 6th of September as Victory Day because a stalemate, Pakistan won the war. Right? A stalemate in the high Himalayas is still, the Chinese cannot run you down there. They cannot occupy territory. Yes, they can do destruction. They can bring tremendous amount of missile power, artillery power, etc., do a lot of destruction, but to come and occupy, to come and make alternative routes through Ladakh, etc., is well nigh impossible to my mind. And therefore, I think we should go back to the maritime zone. I think the Chinese themselves will realize it, that we have realized it. And that is why I said a refocus of the Chinese onto the Indian Ocean is very much likely in the near future. And a revisit into Sri Lanka, they've done nothing for Sri Lanka in this current crisis. Maldives, Bangladesh, all these, Nepal, of course, they seem to be much more serious in Nepal. But these are the areas which somehow the Chinese seem to have lost sight of for some time. I think a refocus, how exactly that refocus comes? In today's world, it's a world of energy, a world of economics, a world of outreach and engagement. That is the way that this will happen, not just through the military route. This is the message I'm in fact conveying around in lots of my audiences. Look at all G20 next 1 year. No one is going to talk of war fighting, let me tell you. And India is doing well. Our Sherpa, Mr. Amitabh Kant, is doing well by making sure that the focus comes up on all the non-traditional security issues, climate change in particular. These are the areas where things will make a difference in the future. So the Chinese themselves are going to be starting to look more at non-military ways, I think. And our assessments of the Chinese mind should now focus on these aspects rather than just the exchange of missiles and rockets. Bye.
Thank you very much, sir. As I said, the question answer session would be divided into three sub-themes. We will now, we have received so many questions that are not able to handle the situation. So we will put a pause to the security issues and consider a few questions from veterans. But more important, after that, we will consider a few questions from the young minds who are looking for motivation, who are looking for direction, and I'm sure you will be able to do that. So coming to a question from the veterans, about the veterans, we have hundreds of armed forces personnel turning into veterans every 6 months. They're extremely capable, have rich experience in diverse fields, are highly motivated, and have the signature work ethos of the armed forces that can deliver results come what may. Yet, very few of them are able to make matching contribution in the CV street. Sir, you have succeeded both in and out of uniform. Can you share your thoughts on how veterans can continue to make meaningful contribution towards nation building and even prepare for it while in service?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the perception that I succeeded outside the uniform. I've done nothing formal, let me tell you. I would say a lot of people who, after superannuation from service, and that rank is not material in this at all. They seem to look for formal employment, second career, etc. My experience, and I speak to a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues from the armed forces who exit, meet me almost every day. I meet them somewhere or the other. My experience has been that those who have recognized their inherent talent, the talent which could not come to the fore in the armed forces, perhaps, if there was no requirement perhaps for it to come to the fore. Your spouse, her talent, many times spouses are very, very talented, and some of the separations keep you in that manner in which that talent is never exploited. You can join up as teams together, a husband and wife team together. One husband doing marketing, the wife's talent being used for something else, etc. I would say your self-worth must be understood and recognized. One of the things that we suffer from in the armed forces is a perception of our esteem. We think that our profession does not give us the capability to prepare ourselves for a second career. I wish to tell you this, that you are at all times preparing for a second career. Public speaking. My career became public speaking later. I was doing this all my life in the armed forces, in the army. I thought I was good at it. I started my journey on geopolitics and understanding of strategic affairs way back in school in 1967. One of my history teachers put me on the job on that thing, and I never looked back and continued. Many of you have got the same similar things, I'm sure. Lots and lots of you. There are people who are on the technical side and things like that. Even the non-technical side, lots and lots of people into marketing. They do a wonderful job outside in civil street. One thing you must just remember. Keep your self-esteem. Most important. Right? Most important. Remain an ambassador of the armed forces. That image must not go. People, the moment they say, they look at you when you are walking into an office, say, "Ye saab fauj ke hain." That should be the inevitable label which should be put on you. He's an army man, he's a navy man, he's an air warrior. The day that label goes away, then you are not, you don't deserve then you don't deserve, frankly. Carry that label with you, and inevitably that label will come handy somewhere or the other. Money is not the criteria. I think the government of India gives us a fairly good pension, and Seventh Pay Commission particularly. You've got a house with you, it looks after the hygiene factors are looked after in by and large. It is the inner thing which is more important, the psychological aspect. Let me tell you, I have today helped employ a very large number of JCOs, ORs particularly, and they came to me only with one thing. So I've got a small house in Gurgaon, somewhere, village, there or that, Noida mein. I even have a car. I will come by car every day. But I want to remain committed. 30,000 rupees is what I want. My mind must remain committed somewhere. I find demand, tremendous demand. I have put 7-8 JCOs and NCOs into one of our offices through a pair selection route. And I find that lots of people who they work with all come back to me and say, these are the best people to work with. These are the best people to work with. So I think it's a question of your self-realization more than anything else. A little creation of making sure that your self-esteem continues to run high, and realizing your self-worth. Don't at any stage feel that the uniform let you down. The uniform actually has, in some way or the other, prepared you for a second career at all times. My response.
Thank you, sir. I think these are real words of wisdom. What strikes us most is your focus on the mind, both the national mindset in terms of security issues and an individual mindset as far as what one can do. And the second aspect that strikes us is what you said about being an ambassador of the service or the armed forces we represented. Thank you very much, sir. Now to handle the third, a question from the third subsection that is regarding the career aspects or the motivation of the youth, I request Colonel Shakil Gundgi to take on the stage.
Thank you very much, sir. General Baswaraj, sir. So we have a large section of our audience today comprising of young Ajits, that is students from my school, Sainik School, Bijapur, and students from other Sainik schools, various other schools and colleges. Most of them, especially from Sainik schools, would be aspiring to join the armed forces as a career option. But today we have various competing options. We just wanted your thoughts on why should they choose the armed forces as a career, and what would be your advice to these young people, sir, today?
Thank you very much. Very pertinent question. I may start by saying I'm a second generation soldier. I'm a second generation general officer. My father was also a general officer of the Indian Army. I don't know whether you may, sometime I will send it across to you. You may like to put the story out in your school, into the Ajit website perhaps, etc. My father in 1947 was given the choice of, he was the only Muslim in his unit, first Garhwal. And the unit was in Peshawar, being brought from there. And he was given the choice by his British commanding officer. Would you join the Pakistan Army or would you like to join the Indian Army? My father was the adjutant of the unit. He said, my first responsibility is to get my unit back to its location. Saharanpur was where the unit was going. They were carrying refugees with them. They were quelling riots en route, etc. And the CEO once again asked him, you can make up your mind and get off at Lahore, because it may be difficult for you to come back. My father's answer to him was very clear. He said, I will join the nation which has respect for all faiths. I will not join an army which is based on a nation, which belongs to a nation which is based on a single religion. That's how he joined the Indian Army. I joined the Indian Army too. We became almost the highest decorated military family in India, right? And I went to the same regiment, I commanded the same unit, etc. So I want to start with this to tell you that The Indian Army, Indian Armed Forces have a unique culture, which needs to be understood and recognized. This culture is something which drives, this is the culture on which India is based. This is what drives our armed forces, right? Unity in diversity, the manner in which the armed forces are structured. And therefore, if I was given a choice, here is $1 million a year, $3 million a year. Choose, here is a car every year. Choose a BMW or whatever you wish to and drive this. I'd say, I will still choose a Fiat 1100. I will still take home 405 rupees, which was my basic salary when I joined the army. But I will join the Indian Army and I will join the Garhwal Rifles. Right? I will only join that. Because a life of honor is what I desire. A life of honor. A life of respect, which I got from my men. Every time I walked past 10 of my men who stood up and saluted me, I knew I was in the right career choice. I had made the right career choice. And I knew that I had to live up to those 10 salutes. Those 10 salutes drove me. In later years of my life, I used a slide for every single presentation, passion in the heart and fire in the belly, which is what was mentioned just now also. Passion in the heart and fire in the belly. There is no other profession which gives you that. That is what I lived by. And I would say there are professions which are honest. There are professions which are passionate. There are professions which contribute as much or much more, perhaps. It's your calling. It's your calling, definitely. But if you want a profession which is honest, which will draw the best out of you, which will be fair to you, which will not put you out on the street, which will respect your family, and put you on a pedestal tomorrow in case you die for the country, then this is the profession to which I would always come back. For the sake of those 10 salutes, for the sake of the passion I see in the eyes of my men, I would always rejoin the Indian Armed Forces, the Indian Army, and the Garhwal Rifles. Thank you.
Exceptional, sir. Exceptional answer, sir. And thanks for that wonderful nugget regarding your father and how you joined the 4 Garhwal Rifles yourself. I know we have many more stories about Jai Bhadri Vishal. Maybe some other time we'll again request you to grace the occasion, sir. We also have a few management students with us. There's one Srinjini Saha from the Doon School, Business School, Dehradun. Is she around? Will she be able to take that question herself?
Yeah, she will be.
Yeah. Srinjini, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, you can unmute Sanjini.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Good evening, sir. I'm Srinjini Shaha. I'm a management student, first year from Doon Business School. This session has been really insightful and informative so far, and I really found it very intriguing and interesting what all you talked about, especially the part about the Indo-Pakistani hybrid war, the strongest strategy conceived by Pakistan, and the geopolitical reset caused by the global pandemic. So as a management student myself, I have a question for you. The question is, what would you suggest management students, like what should they follow to build a successful career in the corporate world, which connects to even strengthen the strategy advantage over our military enemies?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. I'm traveling on the 17th to Kochi and speaking to a very, very large corporate house. It's on my record. I've done 53 talks to corporate houses so far. Some very big ones, Deloitte, KPMG, Hindustan Unilever, etc. Each one I have learned from them more than what I have delivered to them. So I have great respect for the management community of India. But at the end of the day, my message, which I always leave behind for most corporate houses, is that you're very good at financial management. You're very good at resource management. You're very good at strategic management. You may be very good at information management. You may be very good at communication management. You may be very good at capital management. The one thing in India I find the corporates are not good at is human resource management, personal management. Because somewhere down the line, you haven't learned this from the armed forces. That's where the armed forces can teach you a tremendous amount, right? And I give, quote, examples and examples. The credo which I coined for the military secretary's branch, which is the human resource management branch of the Indian Army Officer Cadre, the credo I coined for them was play friend, not God. Because the human resource element, the HR element of every company in India thinks they are God. They are the ones who dictate everything to the people, not realizing you are there for the people, not because of the people there. You are there for the people. So, a people-centric environment, creating a people-oriented policy, and reaching out to your subordinates, your people, is the more important aspect than the results which you achieve. Because that will give you continuity, that will give you motivation, and that will give you retention, the power of retention. Have you seen in the corporate world how weak is the power of retention? Everyone is willing, there's no loyalty. Am I going to move from Garhwal Rifles to Punjab Regiment to Sikh Regiment to the Rajputana Rifles? No, I am Garhwal Rifles, right? Here, KPMG today, 10,000 rupees more, Deloitte tomorrow. No. How to win that loyalty? How to get that out of you? How to make you a committed KPMG man or a so-and-so company man? Dynamic, at the same time, and concerned, loyalty, integrity. These are the words which I would pay much more attention to than much of the management jargon which is created around technical terms. My answer.
Thank you, Shakil. We will just take on one more question, keeping the time in mind.
General Baswaraj, my apologies. I have to attend the SONC's son's wedding this evening.
Sir.
So I'm so sorry that I have run out of time now. So I may have to call it a day. And the SONC happens to be my ex-CSO.
Okay, yes, sir. Sure, sir, sure. So I'll just just say a few words. We have been indeed fortunate in having you answer this, speaking to us on this topic and addressing the questions that were posed by the audience. What comes out most is that you spoke from the heart and your words have been truly inspiring. While we have two more sub aspects of this session, maybe we will request you just for a few minutes, because we do have a talk by the president where Dr. Ashok Dalwai, who has been one of the founders of this Ajit's Knowledge Forum and its prime driver. And Ajit's Knowledge Forum would not have reached where it has reached today without his tireless efforts. We have the president of Ajit's Alumni Association, of which the Ajit's Knowledge Forum is only a sub-part. He is not able to join us today for some unforeseen exigency. So I would request Dr. Ashok Dalwai to say a few words on the Ajit Knowledge Forum and deliver the presidential remarks. Over to you, sir.
Baswaraj, thank you very much, but I would appreciate and request the general to give us 1 minute extra to let that young student who has recorded his question.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think we would not want to let
No,
down
no.
the boy.
I would always.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. And yes, Baswaraj, can you just play the recorded question by the young cadet?
Yeah. Sagar, please play the video.
Sure, sir. Hope you're able to see the screen, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I am Cadet Sankal of Class 11 from Syed School, Bijapur. I am here with a query. Parental pressure and peer pressure have a key role in an individual's life while deciding about their next move or career. Parents try to influence their child to take up the career of their choice. Sir, I would like to know how to convince the parents that their child's aptitude and aptitude also matters while taking the life-changing decision. Thank you.
Nice. Yes, I agree with you that generational perception will always, difference of perception will exist. There's no doubt. I had that thing with my parents too, perhaps to some extent. But I made a choice because my father was from the army, and I said, and I was wanting to join the army, so perhaps our thoughts converged. This inevitably comes up with lots and lots of others. You see, first of all, you have to have a relationship with your parents, which is an open relationship. You can't overnight suddenly come out of the blue and say that I'm trying to now convince them, although I've never really spoken my heart out to my parents, etc. Over a period of time, you have to build up your relationship with your parents, right? I know in the Indian context, what I'm saying sounds strange because building relationships with parents is not something that you work on, is something which is considered to be an automatic thing, right? But no, you're different human beings. And you have to tell your parents that decisions taken now are going to affect you for the next 40 years. It's your life, it's your career. Millennials, for example, today. Millennials the minds of millennials are something completely different. For me to perceive the mind of a millennial is something impossible. I can see the manner in which my children have played around with the technologies and things like that. I can't even imagine that I could do that. So it's a question of making your parents understand that you are not different in outlook that way. It's not affecting your ethics. It is not affecting your value system, as long as it's not affecting your ethics and values. That is an important aspect with your parents. You must tell them. It does whatever you taught me, see, that will continue. Honesty, integrity, pursuance of single-minded, the intent and aim, everything, the family name, everything will be there. It's just that I have a talent and I have an orientation for something different to what is there in your mind. I think that is the approach you will have to follow. Because most parents, frankly saying, at the end of the day, are concerned about family name, concerned to make sure that you don't ever get stuck into issues of ethics and values, right? You continue following a chartered path, may not achieve the life's greatest ambitions, but as long as you're optimized to maintain a balance in life, is good enough. What you want to convey is you have a passion, you have a talent, maybe undiscovered, you want to go further on that. And that, as far as your parents' core issues are concerned, on ethics and values, you will pursue them to the last and you will always respect them. I think that will convince them inevitably.
Sir, we have one cadet from our guest school, which is Syed School, Nagrota, Abrar. Is Abrar around? He wants to ask a very specific question to Batalik, to the general officer, sir. Abrar, yeah, Abrar is there?
Yeah, I can see his question is there on the...
Is it, sir? Okay.
Yeah. I can see the question. Can I just have a look at the question?
Yeah, young Abrar is here. Abrar, go ahead.
Abrar. Go ahead, Abrar. Go ahead.
Yeah,
good evening, sir. Here I am. I suppose there's a audio issue from that side. Probably it might be open in 2 channels.
Jai, sir. I'm Cadet Abrar Khan from Syed School, Nagrota. So actually, you just mentioned that it would be like around impossible to fight a war through land waste in the contemporary world, right? So we are just about to get the majestic Zojila tunnel in a couple of months, which luckily will give access to the Indian Army in its initial years. So obviously, an Ashok Leyland will take a much lesser time to transport and reach the destination. From this, I could see, sir, that it's not even that impossible to tackle this case. So what more can we do to make this so-called impossible task possible? Like I myself belong from Kargil, and I have seen as I was raised there, that there are a lot of long meadows in whether in Dras or in Batalik sectors. We need a lot of tunnels, and especially in the Dras, there's a long, like so much land. And when you go to Leh and in Chanthang or in Phyang, there are a lot of deserted areas. So we have airstrikes there. So a lot of things like come in my mind whenever I go through my homeland.
Okay, I got your question. I got your question.
Good.
Just remember Abrar, remember one thing. The Zojila tunnel is not designed to cut down your distance. The Zojila tunnel is designed to give you 365 days access. Right? At the moment, you are getting 8-month access. 4 months, 5 months, the Zojila is closed because of snow and ice. Right? Once the tunnel comes up, you can go through in winter too. But the distance doesn't get cut down. The vehicle will still take 10 days to come back. Right? That's number one. Of course, you are very right. Ashok Leyland takes 10 days and Shaktiman used to take 14 days in those earlier years. Okay. As technologies improve, you will find that better and better vehicles will come, and you will probably find that the time will get cut down. As you find the means and resources, the money, budgets, infrastructure will continue to build up. After all, the road from Leh to Daulat Beg Oldi took 13 years to construct. 13 years to construct. Very difficult, very, very difficult task. But as technologies improve, as the resources improve, today strategic lift capability, airlift capability improves. You're getting a proper landing. You got flights coming into Kargil. You may find tomorrow ultimately a flight coming into Dras, for all you know, right? So infrastructure is a question of how much you ultimately wish to spend and what technologies are made available. And war fighting and the methodologies of war fighting are based very largely on this. I'm glad you belong to Kargil. I started my service from Kargil.
Good.
I started my service from Kargil and love that area a lot. And subsequently, I've served in all the areas of Ladakh. I've commanded my unit in Siachen Glacier, and I brought my unit to Tangse and Pangongso subsequently after commanding in the Siachen Glacier. So your state, your union territory is very, very well known to me. God bless you all.
Thank you, sir.
I have a lot of time for people from Ladakh always.
Thank you very much, sir.
Dr. Ashok Dalwai, sir.
Yeah, thank you, General Basraj. First, let me give a big salute to General. Sir, you have let me overcome with the paroxysm of emotions this evening. As I heard to you along with others, we realize you have served us a feast that comprises a unique cuisine made up of a very unique recipe. As you said, the generals, the admirals, and the marshals romance with the maps. As I was looking at the maps that you screened during the course of your speech, there was some particular thing that caught my attention. As they say, at midnight, the mother alone listens to the cry of the child, while the father is snoring away to glory. As you were romancing with those maps, what caught my attention was Jagros Mountains that delineates Iran from the erstwhile India, undivided India. Why that caught my attention was that is one of the hotspots on the earth where agricultural revolution began 12,000 years ago. The first seeds collected from the mountains, from the forests, were husbanded by the women. The first animals from the forests were domesticated there. And that's where settled agriculture began. And we have these 12,000 years of Indian civilization. So each of us looks at our own aspects, but what you have told us, that the security is a function not just of the military might, but it has to be supplemented or built on the foundations of economic power, technology power. As they say, soldier fights on his stomach. We have to ensure our nutrition security. But then the message to all of us here is the need to realize that we need to get out of our compartmental mindsets, the silos. It is a silo mentality that has been the bane of Indian society, divided as it is by various thoughts. And those social thoughts have got into the secular thoughts of governance. One department does not speak to the other department. One officer does not speak to the other officer. And that's what is the story of the military too, where the army, the air force, and the navy, who need to make a beautiful kaleidoscope of three colors, are seen differently from one another. And the lesson to all of us from the perspective of security this evening is that, as Bhutto very famously said, that I'm going to wound India with 1,000 cuts. Today in the 21st century, the rising phenomena is that China and Pakistan together are building a complex web where I think we'll not have just two front challenges, but multiple front challenges. As you yourself made us to understand, that wars now will be fought within the country, cyber war, security wars. AIMS is the latest manifestation of that particular 1,000-cut wound that we see. So thank you very much, sir, for making us understand what do we mean by these two front challenges and multiple challenges. So far as silo mentality is concerned, I think certainly we need to understand that as the economic powers of a country grow, just as India is growing, as technology power grows, our attention certainly shifts from the conventional land warfare to the water and air warfare. And Earth is made of 75% of water. 25% alone is land. But over the last 5,000 years in particular, land is what has mattered. Even in terms of our ego, that I capture the land, I own the land. But I think, as you rightly said, now water and air are going to be the new threats. And India, with 8,400 kilometers of coastline, including that of the islands, and of course, a huge airspace, given that our land itself is 329 lakh million hectares. We certainly need to take care to build unity of all the three forces and unity of the military with the civil power, economic power, and the technology power of the country. Your advice to the veterans, your advice to the cadets is perfect. We are all taking home beautiful lessons. As you rightly said, that life gives us an opportunity to continuously learn, provided we keep our minds open, provided we are willing to say, I don't know this. So whether it is the officers in the uniform or people outside of the uniform need to continuously learn, upgrade their knowledge, build their esteem, keep their pride, to be self-reliant. And as our own Indian philosophy teaches us, remain detached from materialism. As you rightly said, the 10 salutes that you get as a general matters more than 10 BMWs that you may own, or a 10 billion account that some of the generals in the world own. So it's what we really attach value to. And that's the message to the young boys and girls. Today, our science schools and other schools are all open to boys and girls. There's a new development of this government. So your message is well taken because you are a person who talks and walks the talk. As you are saying that I have not had a structured position after the terminating the office, but I think the way you have lived, the way you advocate is a message to all boys and girls of various schools and colleges who have assembled here from across the country. For want of time, I'll end up by saying what really touched, I'm sure, everybody today was that you and your family chose India. You and your father chose Indian Army, and you are committed to choosing Gadwal Regiment once again. I think you and your family symbolize and manifest the fervor of nation building that went along with the struggle for freedom. India's struggle for freedom was not a solo journey. It was combined with building a nation, as we understand today in the modern times. It was combined with social reforms. And it is our leaders of the freedom struggle who have inculcated us in the spirit of secularism, universal philosophy, respect for all cultures, respect for all faiths, respect for diversity. And the true beauty lies in respecting the diversity. India continues to be respecting that democracy, that plurality, that universalism, that love. As the Honorable Prime Minister keeps saying, that we believe in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, and that India in the 21st century is set to become a Vishwa Guru based on ethics and morality, based on economic power, based on technology power. So we salute your father, we salute your family, we salute you. And today we feel that you are a member of our family. All of us of all the science schools across the country, all the schools and colleges who are here, all the Ajit friends who are here, all the Ajit family members, including the ladies and young boys and girls who are here. We are personally touched, and I am personally touched too by your humility. And no sooner did I call you, you took no time to say yes. And it was my misfortune that when I came to call on you, I could not see you. But then now you and I are going to work together on the scheme of national disaster management. And so I'll have more opportunities, and it shall be my privilege to be working with you. You are the honorable member of the NDMA, chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister himself. So thank you very much, sir. And so I speak here on behalf of everybody who's here. I also express my words of warmth on behalf of our President, Ajit Alumni Association, Mr. Gopal Osur, who is not here. And he conveys his regards to you. Unfortunately, he could not be here. And thank you very much once again. And we look forward to your continued guidance, continued association. And I would not be out of sync if I say we also seek your blessings, particularly for all the young boys and girls and all the serving officers, not just within the military, but also in the civil services, those who are in the enterprise, so that they all continue to be inspired, motivated, and try to become someone like you. So thank you very much, and my salutes to you once again. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that summary complete. I am absolutely inspired, let me tell you. And my blessings and good wishes to the entire fraternity, senior, junior, youngsters, colleagues, anyone. I think you are a great network of people. As I said at the end, I'm a very people-centric person. And I do very strongly feel if such networks exist, most of our problems will be behind us. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Saga sir. May I request the General to spare just a few minutes for the vote of thanks and the national anthem, or at least the national anthem. May I now request for the vote of thanks, please?
Thank you, General
You can keep it
Basavaraj
short. Yeah.
Gilginchi, sir. What a scintillating and engaging conversation it was. It is my honor and privilege to propose a vote of thanks. I would like to extend my gratitude to General Syed Hasnain, sir, So thank you so much for enlightening us with your experience and humility, despite your very busy professional and personal schedule. We are all inspired by your great words. Your remarks triggered new critical thinking in our minds when it comes to international relations, diplomacy, and strategic thinking that will benefit us to a great amount. Thank you, sir. You made us realize that there is a lot of critical thinking that goes inside room and perception and psychological warfare. We are glad to know that. We would not be here without our school's generosity. Thank our alma mater, our beloved teachers, for giving us the opportunity to gather today for a cause that may benefit many and energize others. We have been fortunate enough to be backed by our beloved principal group captain Pratibha Bish, Sainik School Bijapur, Vice Principal, Registrar, and staff, and thank you all. I would extend my gratitude to Lieutenant Colonel Amit Selot, Vice Principal, Sainik School Nagrota, Commander Negi, Sir, Professor Doon Management School. Thank you so much. Our sincere gratitude also to the principal, administrative staff, and students of Sainik School Kodugu, Sainik School Imphal, Sainik School Golpura, Sainik School Junjun, and Sainik School Nagrota. This also includes Kannada School Examba. Huge round of applause to all the Ajit families and friends and many young students and aspirants who have joined the event today in large numbers, for it is your support and presence that makes every AKF event a grand success. Our sincere and heartfelt gratitude to Ajit's Gopal Hosur, Sir, President AAA, our mentor, Colonel BGV Kumar, Sir, our observer, Vishwanath Patel, Sir, and Dr. Ashok Dalwai, Sir, for inspiring us to reach for the stars and helping us realize our potential and work as a team. We are indebted to our seniors, General K.N. Midji, Sir, AVM Vikas Ejurvedi, Sir, Commodore Arvind Shigaon, Sir, for such thought-provoking and insightful questions. Cadet Sankalp, Sainik School Bijapur, Cadet Abrar, Sainik School Nagrota, and Srinija from Management School, thank you for your thoughtful questions. We at Ajit Knowledge Forum have been fortunate enough to be backed by a team of very motivated and dedicated Ajits led by Sudarshan Satija, Sir. Thanks to Maltesh Jivanavar, Sir, Shiv Prasad Kenneth, Sir, Dr. Vivekanand Bankoli, Sir, Ranga Jagannath, Sir, Umesh Sajanar, Sir, Santosh Hombal, Sir, Technical Director for AKF, Vijay Thakur, Sir, Amog Bayal, thank you for your contributions. Our sincere and heartfelt thanks to the awesome Major General Basavaraj Gilginchi, Sir, and Colonel Shakil Kundgi, Sir, Sri Sidram Nadgaud, Sir, and Prakash Saigavi, Sir, for beautifully anchoring this very insightful conversation. Sorry if I have missed out any names or contributions, it is purely unintentional. Once again, on behalf of AKF and my own behalf, thank you everyone for taking the time to be here today and hearing me. With your presence and your interactivity, you have made it a very memorable and special event. Jai Hind, Ajit hai, Abit hai. Over to you, General Basavaraj.
Thank you very much, Sagar. Now, may I request everyone to rise for the national anthem. Ajit, Umesh, over to you.
Sure, sir. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Janagana mana adhinayak jaya he Bharat bhagya vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे